Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's artwork presentation. I'm Bonnie Maranka, professor of theater here at Lang, and the curator of the series. This is the first event of our 10th year of artwork, and in this series we bring innovative artists to Lang to talk about their artistic process. So tonight our guest is the playwright and director Richard Maxwell, who is also the artistic director of one of the prominent theater companies known as New York City Players. Before that, he had been a co-founder of another theater company in Chicago, the Cook County Theater Department. I first began to hear about his work sometime in the late 90s when his plays were being talked about in the downtown experimental theater scene in New York City. The writing was sparse, poetic, fragmented, strangely emotive. The way he directed the plays generated a new kind of theatrical realism on stage. Already by then, Maxwell had described his approach to the Village Voice as, quote-unquote, anti-style, an attempt at what he called coming as close to neutrality as you can. Now, 20 plays and many awards later, the work, often striving toward myth, still retains its integrity and commitment to aesthetic values, and his theatrical signature has taken its place as a unique vocabulary in contemporary theater. Audiences in many of the major venues in New York and in festivals and theaters all over the world have admired his productions. How does a theater maker arrive at such a place? The years pile up. Graduating from college, starting a theater, writing, coming to New York, searching for actors and rehearsal space and funding, getting the work known, marrying, raising children, touring the world, always at the center, writing. A few years ago, Maxwell wrote, and here I'm quoting, "In theater there is an inherent dichotomy that is an excellent opportunity to explore where the known leaves off and the unknown takes over. I see the actor in the flesh before me, but he or she is wearing a costume and speaking words that are memorized. I see a set, but I also see the room around it. I like to talk to actors about what is important to their lives and how they behave on stage. I write characters, but I don't ask actors to pretend that they are those characters." One can comprehend in those words the paradoxical composition of reality in his theater. Even the titles of the plays are stripped of decorative titling and instead are called House, Joe, Caveman, Flight Courier Service, Ads, The Evening, Isolde. The themes are broad and serious: fathers and sons, husbands and wives, money, corruption, loneliness. In these times of crisis, writers often come back to the essential social and familiar structures to engage with the world. It's not easy knowing what to create nowadays, how to speak to audiences, how to find meaning and quietude in the noise of the culture. Where does one go inside oneself to find those private thoughts that will be shaped into the public story of the drama? Judging from his work and collaborations with other artists and its range of spiritual feeling, I am guessing that Maxwell has a special place and working process he can go to. In his recent book entitled Theater for Beginners, he offers unpretentious words of wisdom. Take a walk when you can. Be alone when you can. Talk to people you care about when you can, he writes. Well, I like that advice because I know from experience that sometimes during a walk outdoors we can discover that knowledge grows on trees. Please join me in welcoming tonight's guest, Richard Maxwell.
Thank you, Bonnie. I also want to say I really appreciate what Bonnie has done with PAJ, Performing Arts Journal, and publishing, many great plays, but in this case, some of mine. And that's always a nice boost. Yeah, so I made like some like 20 damn plays, a lot of plays. We're going through reworking the website right now and getting a sense of just how much work there is. It's like you work with the blinders on in a sense, and you just kind of keep your nose to the grindstone, and then you look up and 20 years have gone by. I mean, it's maybe not quite 20, but let's get into it. My beginnings as a theater maker are in Illinois. I studied acting at Illinois State University, and I just graduated in May 2016. My roommate there was my high school friend, the actor Gary Wilms, and I then moved to Chicago with a fellowship with Steppenwolf Theater Company in 1990, where I met actors Kate Gleason and Brian Mendes and Erica Heilman, and together with Gary and another high school friend, the composer Dave Pavkovic, and the storyteller Antonio Sacri, we founded the Cook County Theater Department. And we named it hoping to confuse the county into funding us. It didn't work. We were restless souls. We started meeting and rehearsing and hashed out ideas until we settled on our first production, which was a reworking of the musical Oklahoma. And I'd say two key components came out of the work there, and that have stayed with me to this day. And it's the notion of saying no on stage, as opposed to the improv pedagogy of always say yes. And it's also the other thing is the notion of anti-preconceptualism is what I'm going to call that, meaning that there is value in not charting a concept or message of a production ahead of time, and instead perpetually embracing the present circumstances, thereby allowing productions and the acting to be more rooted in the actual truths of the room, rather than in the fiction of a story. We spent a lot of time exploring the concept of nothingness on stage when we were rehearsing there, down in this loft space, I guess you could call it, in the South Loop of Chicago. We went on to present several shows over the course of 4 years when I decided I would move to New York City to become a director. I was weary of the decision by consensus process that had emerged at Cook County Theater Department, and imagined a more efficient method where I tell people what to do. Before I left Chicago, I wrote a letter to Elizabeth LeCompte at the Worcester Group and asked to watch rehearsals in exchange for free labor. She never wrote me back, but that didn't stop me from paying the Worcester Group a visit and letting them know in person I was available to intern. I got my wish a few weeks later and found myself sweeping the stage and meeting the likes of Kate Vaughn, Peyton Smith, Roy Fodry, Liz, Tracy Leipold, Alex Paxton, James Hannaham, John Collins, Eric Dyer, Clay Shirky, Clay Hapaz, Chris Kondek, Jim Clayburg. I remember thinking, here is a new class of WASP I haven't encountered before. And then I wrote LOL. I have such vivid images of watching Liz direct and being around that company in those first months in New York City. I learned a lot from Liz, and I still do. I also found myself fraternizing with the folks at the Ontological Theater in St. Mark's Church on 2nd Avenue, where Richard Foreman had his headquarters there. Sophie Haviland was the producer at the time of Richard's work, and she established a kind of ad hoc artist-in-residence program where certain chosen ones could present work in the theater when Foreman wasn't, and you were offered a reduced rent in the summertime. Some people around the Ontological at the time were Ann DeMare, Ann Washburn, Bob Kakuza, Ken Ninsel, Sally Eberhardt, Judy Elkin, David Cody, who's now a theater critic, Dorica, also from Chicago, a theater company, Elevator Repair Service, and Target Margin. I was also helping Eric Dyer of Radio Hole at the time with his show that he was preparing for the kitchen, and as it turned out, Eric was unable to commit at that time to his show, and I proposed to Catherine Green, who was curating then, to take one of the Cook County Theater Department shows instead, Clowns Plus Wrestlers. And I was surprised when she said yes, because she hadn't seen it, and we had no credits outside of Chicago. That was 1996. Meanwhile, I continued to write, direct, and produce plays. I thought I wanted to be a director, but I didn't have much patience for reading and doing other people's plays. I wanted to direct my own. So I looked for conduits that would let me do that. For example, I spent 2 summers on the invitation of Phil Soltanoff at the Williamstown Theater Festival because they let me stage my own production with non-equity actors in exchange for being a director's assistant on the main stage. The working process at this time was more or less like this. Write a script, or most of it, cast it from friends and friends of friends, pay for it with credit card and borrowed money, offset it with any box office. And the expenses for those early plays were actor fees, rehearsal space, theater rental, some set, props, not much, and then costumes. And I had odd jobs at the time. I was mainly working in a cafe, making coffee and bagels, and then I also had a job doing cue cards at NBC. Now, everyone did odd jobs at that time and had busy schedules, so time together was precious, and it's still like this. So I would book, say, 3 hours in the evening or on the weekend in a rehearsal space. And as director and writer, I had a lot on my mind and found that it helped me concentrate if people didn't move around too much. And I was unable to, I was really unable to plan ahead as far as rehearsal, since all my spare time was spent writing. And then something interesting happened. All the effort of putting something together together gave the effect of resemblance. So the resembling of a play I found very appealing. And I felt like it was setting the play free by propping it up like this. And then the job became about following the thing to see what it needed. I think in retrospect that put me on a course more in line with visual art. To have the play be treated as this unusual object, taking on more sculptural terms than character-driven psychological needs, etc. I didn't realize any of this at the time. But I think this resembling of a play was the beginning of this pitting of irony against sincerity, which I think these clips will help illustrate, among other things. In 1998, I wrote a play called House, which was presented at the Ontological Theater in June. This play was the first show I made that got invited to international theater festivals. In House, father tells son what he knows about how the world works, failing to answer key questions about his past. Wife talks about finding a better place in society and what might be best for son. Meanwhile, Mike talks about working with the government, where somehow his brother was murdered. Eventually, Mike arrives at the house and accuses father of killing his brother. They fight. Mike kills father. Wife and son escape and live on the run for a year. Wife and son return to their house to find an occupant, Mike. Son fails to avenge his father's death. Then Mike persuades wife to go with him. So in that production, you'll see Gary Wilms, Lorena Allen, Yehuda Duenas, and John Becker. And the set and the production was designed by Jane Cox. And this set, I just want to tell you a little bit about this set here before I play this clip, was based on the rehearsal space where we rehearsed the play. So what you're seeing is a replica of this basement in a tenement building on 48th Street.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. Do you remember me?
Vaguely. Hello, how are you? Wait a minute.
Do you remember
Yes. Vaguely. Yes. Oh no. Wait a minute. Yes. Yes. Oh no.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
I just remember that Yehuda standing there as Mike, he shaved in male pattern baldness. I thought that was a remarkable commitment from an actor. All right. I can't see. But that looks pretty good. I think the projector, whatever you did, looks good. Thank you. So maybe, as you can see, a big part of the evolution in my creative process involves this conversation around realism and reality. Most of the conversations with actors I work with involve these two realms. So the realism is rooted in the story you're telling, and the reality is that there is a play happening. And both are legitimate, or rather not illegitimate, realms to explore. But to me, it seems odd to define honest portrayal by pretending. So we talk about it, the actors and I, the designers and I. The facts are, we're telling a story. There's a lot of feeling involved. Relationships get outlined and defined. I'm making decisions about what the text should be, working with designers to decide what the set and costumes should be. It's character work in a way, but it's also, I would say, anthropological. people of different walks of life and communities coming together to do this thing. And how we get from point A to point B is going to be unique anyway. To work up the fiction in rehearsal has its place. For example, where the actor will be, what they will say and do and where. But the experience of watching a play is so wide open, maybe it's more productive to define it literally and take it from there. This is a clip from Drummer Wanted, a play from 2001. It was presented at Performance Space 122 right after 9/11. It's a play about a 29-year-old guy living at home with his mother. He's a rock and roll drummer, and it's about their relationship after he gets hit by a car on his motorcycle.
I'm riding my motorcycle. The garage is opening. Man, I'm riding my motorcycle.
He's backing
The garage
up.
is opening. Man, this
Man.
guy doesn't see me.
This guy.
Hey!
He's backing
Shit!
up.
Man, this guy doesn't see me.
Hey, what happened? Don't know.
Fuck! It hurts.
What is it?
My leg!
Frank, what happened? Don't know. Let me see. I'll get you out of here.
Fuck.
Who did this, Frank?
I don't
What is
know. The guy. My leg!
Okay, let me get you some ice. Let me see. I'll get you out of here. Who did this, Frank?
I don't know. The guy.
Okay,
Fuck.
okay. Let me get you some ice. Here.
Stop it!
Prop up.
Stop it!
Okay,
Ow.
okay.
Don't touch it!
Sweetheart, let me put some ice on it.
Ow. Stop it! I think it's broken. Stop it!
Okay, okay. We'll see.
Don't touch
Just
it.
relax. Sweetheart, let me put some ice on it.
Ow. I think it's broken. Mom, it hurts.
Just don't worry, it'll get better. You want some aspirin?
Where's my bike?
Ray has it in his garage. Relax.
Fuck, okay.
Don't worry, it'll get better.
Where's my bike?
Ray has it in his garage.
Man, I
Relax.
wanna go home. Fuck, okay.
Well, we have to stop at the pharmacy, then we can go home.
Okay. Why can't you just take me home and go home?
Frank, it's right in this building. We have to stop what the doctor wants, then we have to get it.
Ow! Just take me home. It
Frank,
hurts!
it's right in this building.
Shit!
This is what the doctor wants, you have to get it. Relax.
Ow!
Why don't you try and get some sleep?
It hurts! I can't sleep. Shit! I can't get comfortable.
You want another pill? Relax. Why don't you try and get some sleep? Stacy called.
I can't sleep. Who's Stacy? Comfortable.
want another
No, I don't want to talk to her.
Stacy called.
Keep that phone away from me. Who's
Sweetie,
Stacy?
that's fine. Don't worry about that.
No,
Here.
I don't want to
This
talk
should
to
help you
her.
sleep.
Keep that phone away from me.
Sweetie, that's fine. Don't worry about that.
No.
This should help you sleep. No?
What are you gonna sing? No.
You don't want me to sing to you? No?
Ma, don't sing. What are you gonna sing?
You don't want me to sing to you?
Ma, don't sing.
My little baby, you're awake now. Sleep, my little baby, sleep, my baby, go to sleep. Go to sleep, my little baby, you're awake now. Sleep, my little baby, go to sleep, my baby, now. Go to sleep, go to sleep, Well,
Don't you work? What time is it? Don't you work?
I'm not going in today. I decided to stay home and take care of you.
What time is it?
What did you? I'm not going in today. I decided to stay home and take care of you.
Good.
What did you?
It seems safe to say that most people's relationship to theater is not complicated. It's go to a show and hopefully get entertained. I ended up somehow unable to accept that formula. I sometimes wish that I could. I think there must be a parallel in theater to the films of Bud Bedecker, for example. B-movies done without fanfare with meat and potatoes plots. And then at the end of the day, you punch out. I aspire to a certain unpretentious economy, but I'm also interested in the more intellectual ramifications of that economy. And the cerebral facets get worked in. How could they not when you repeat something? It accumulates. Anyway, don't pretend that the text, this is me talking to the actors now, don't pretend that the text that we've been getting together to repeat for so many nights is the first time that you're saying these words. And I keep wondering what theater would be like without the performer, without the person. I think the person is inherently offensive. The human body, the actor. There is an implied responsibility as soon as you dress someone and put them on stage. You declare this person a character and the judgments start flying, and it challenges our empathy, our emotions. Just imagine plays that you've seen without any humans in them, and you start to see what I mean. A human being is supposed to know better, play along with certain notions of verisimilitude. It makes it hard for an actor to feel like a formalist pioneer playing like this. I love to work with humans, but it's illuminating to work with other figures as well. I'm going to show you a clip from Joe, which is about one man. His name is Joe, and his story is told through a series of monologues by 5 different actors playing him at different stages of his life, starting at about 8 years old. And you connect them with the costumes. They're all wearing these red hoodies. And this was done at Performance Space 122 as well in 2002. This is Gene Wynn.
One of these days I'm knocking at your door. One of these days I'm knocking at your door. One of these days I'm knocking at your door. And if you're worried, you won't worry no more. And if you're worried, you won't worry no more.
So you could see from these clips that music figures into these plays that I make. I write music, songs, which are usually performed by the actors. And in that sense, I guess you could say these are musicals, these plays. I brought music to the table when I first started, mainly because my friend Dave and I were in bands together, and we wrote songs, so songwriting felt natural in those Chicago plays. Also, I enjoy writing songs because once you put something in time, it becomes like a puzzle to solve. For me, the music is something that is available, like bodies and intellect and speech. Music is a primary and ancient ingredient of theater, and it's something that doesn't cost anything to do. Because of my musical background, it informs the conversation I have with the actors. For example, like timing, it's a recurring topic. Rhythm is a topic. Listening, being aware of others, playing with others. Music gets its shape from time. Rests get their meanings from note values and vice versa. Similarly, silence shapes what is spoken in a play. And I like silence because of all the information that floods out any time an individual simply steps up in front of people. And I think we're habituated to consciously tune in when someone speaks, but when they stop speaking, our unconscious tends to take over, or at least silence can loosen the contract that we have between actor and audience. And there seems to be more possibility in the air. This next clip I'm going to show you is from a play called Good Samaritans. And by the way, this is going to be reprised at Abron's Art Center in February in the Playhouse. So look out for that. This stars Rosemary Allen, who is a retired registered nurse, not an actor, and Kevin Hurley. It's about a intake facility for a rehab center, and a patient comes in, checks into that center, and Rosemary is the social worker who takes care of him. This set here is of a dining hall, but you only see these two characters interact in this world here. I'll play you a clip here.
You don't want to set yourself up as something that is fixed. I know. You're for the provincial types. You can't avoid allowing them to fall in love with the idea that you are the right thing and that cool is cool. You're for the provincial types. I know you like it. You can't avoid allowing them to fall in love with the idea that you are the right thing. You pick the zenith to fixate on, and you do it. I know you like it. It doesn't matter what or who. But I'm not like that. It's all right. I'm dealing with it now, Kevin. You picked a zenith. It's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter. I let go and I feel better. It's all right.
We're supposed to leave together.
It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. I let
It
go
is all right.
and I feel better.
But you don't know because it never happened to you. Well, I've been there, and I'll play it all over again. Please. It is. And I'll find the pleasure. But you don't all the girls, all the pussy and booze, dopamine, hotel rooms. I can't help it. All over again. I want it all. I want them all right here tonight. Yes, the night. I love the night. If I have to choose, I choose the night. I can't help it. Forgive me. I want it all. If my time is up, my time is served. Tonight, yes, the night. I love the night.
I'm feeling you.
I don't feel it. I choose the night. I don't feel anything. If my time is up, my time is served.
I'm feeling you.
I don't feel it. I don't feel anything.
Get up. Get up. Get up. I know. Get up. Get up. Get up. I know. My wrists, my elbows, my knees, my neck. I'm so tired of this body. This body is so broke. My wrists, I'm so tired of this broke body. My knees, my neck. I don't need this body. You can have it. This body is so broke. This body. I'm so tired. It's so broken now. It's been used so hard. I don't need this body. God, have it. Take this body. Take this body now. It's so broken. I will be lifted out of this body. God, take me out of this body. Lift me out of this body now. Take it. He doesn't want it. God, take me. Is that the way it is? Is that the way it is? There's how many thousand people in this town? People come in, use it, and give it back to me. Is that the way it is? I keep doing that over and over. How many times? Nobody really wants it. People come in, use it. Now everybody can make it themselves. I keep doing that. They don't want it. How many times? And besides, why would they? Nobody really wants it. I don't blame them. I don't want it. Why should they want it? It used to be you could sell something, turn it around and sell it again. Mainly because nobody had it, you know? Why should they want it? Now there's all this garbage created that nobody wants. Turn it around and sell it again. That's the lesson. Mainly because nobody had it, you know? Are you driven? There's all this garbage created that you bellow, and it's a mere yelp. That's the lesson. It doesn't even register. Look at you. It's only a drop in the ocean of the city. Your holler comes out and nobody hears it. It doesn't even register. You roar, and it only sounds like you got swallowed. Better stay inside and look in the mirror. That's enough. You roar, and it only sounds. You'll always have yourself. And don't expect the world to have you, know you, use you, see you. You'll always have yourself. Hard to figure out.
Stage combat is a fascinating idea to me, that an individual, in order to help tell a story, has to execute certain physical sequences in order to be convincing yet safe. It's a wild state to be in, and it points to the artifice inherent in repetition. It's a point of concern with realism, and one that I find entertaining. With The End of Reality, we wanted to push the envelope and make actual contact in our fights. In this clip we're going to watch, which is from The Kitchen in 2006, Brian Mendes will fight Jim Fletcher, and then we'll see Tom Bradshaw
I am alone.
come in at the end.
I am alone.
Who did this? Who the fuck are they? That's what I'm asking you. I don't fucking get it. Don't tell me that's not the guy.
I don't know.
It is or it isn't.
I don't know.
Who the fuck are they?
No, shut up. I don't know what's going on here. Shut up.
Don't tell me that's not the guy.
I don't know.
It is or it isn't.
I don't know. I'm looking it up.
No!
Shut up. I don't know what's going on. Shut up.
I hurt myself.
What's wrong? What happened to you?
I hurt myself.
Neutrality is a concept that is amusing to consider in the theater because of its utter futility. Any attempt by an individual to take stage in a neutral way cannot contend with the many automatic and subjective associations of the viewer. It does, however, create a useful conversation. I remember thinking, what color is more neutral, white or black? Most theaters are painted black to become neutral. But if a black performer stands in front of a white audience, it's a statement. It's saying something. But shouldn't a black person have the same claim to neutrality as a white, which to my mind challenges the color black when it comes to painting a theater? Why make it black? I would say it's to eliminate exterior world and the exterior world and enable a transportation by the viewer to a fictional place, like dreams. This doesn't make black neutral, but neither is white or even gray. What about a female person, a kid, an elderly person? What parameters will be applied to say that they were neutral? For a performer to try to execute movement neutrally has been explored, as I know it, by Jacques Lecoq. It's equally impossible, but still interesting to try. I guess you could say I became known for a certain neutrality in the realm of style, and the label chased me until I decided to do an about-face and confront the whole idea with the play I called Neutral Hero, based on the monomyth as outlined by Joseph Campbell. In the many weeks of writing and rehearsing with my 12-person cast, I set out with them to find neutral refuge in dress, comportment, text, and even music. We made neutral masks with paper mache, which with the accompanying paste is naturally white, and it's ludicrous to put on a black person's face. We practiced the blocking and speaking without affect, as I had learned back in Chicago. It doesn't work at all to shut the mind down. It makes it worse. It takes you further from this neutral ideal. The more active mind is vital to even approach neutrality. So I faced the challenge I made for myself to put something across that doesn't register. And I found laughable failure on all scores. For starters, what language will we speak? What makes English more neutral? So faced with this failure were these questions of identity. Who are we? We're American, mostly from New York. What language do we speak? English. Who's writing this tale? Me. Who am I? I'm a guy from the Midwest. What's your story? I feel like I've never had a place I could call home. Oh, you mean like Odysseus? This is me talking to myself right now. You mean like Odysseus? Yeah, kind of like that. Okay, tell that story. So honesty, or a kind of candor, became the surrogate for neutrality. And yet conceptually, I would say that the show is equal parts success and failure, because I challenge anyone to make a more neutral show, especially one with human beings in it. In this clip, you'll see Philip Moore and Alex Delanois in a scene here with some singers, Jean Ann Garish, Andy Springer, Rosie Goldenson, Janet Coleman, and Paige Martin. This is Neutral Hero at the Kitchen in 2000. Oh, I'm sorry, this is actually from, we did it at the Kitchen, but this was in, this clip was Dublin in 2013.
Describe what I've seen. In the language of trees. The grandmother is gone. In the night, the river flows. There's ringing bells. Nighttime bells, watery smells. You float along. Let the flames light the sky and say goodbye. What you feel, everything is meant to be.
So here you are. What happened?
Time got away from me. I don't know. I left you. You grew up alone. All that time? Can we make that up?
No. You can do a lot with time, but not that. Not that. So you got out.
I did.
How'd you manage that?
There wasn't a plan.
Papa, come home. Mama misses you. I miss you.
I can't do that right now.
Why not?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah. I'm learning. I know they have their lives quite separate from mine. Yeah, I know they've tried and lied and had their times just like mine. But I have to say, from my life, these women are mine, and I can't imagine being without them. I'm talking about my sisters, Bob. I'm talking about my sisters, all. They're like pillars to me, like trees, these sisters. They care about you not as a man, but they care just the same. Time is its own noose. You can't buy into it. And I have to mention it. They also, and to varying degrees, have trouble feeling. This I know.
You know, you let me down. I feel really tight in the chest, really weak. But and I can't swallow. My throat feels parched. And that's awkward. And tense. And I'm trying to talk, but you're not listening.
Speak.
I need you to help me. Then I can speak.
You're not anything.
I think by this time, 2012, I felt like I had run out of tricks. Isolde was a chance. Isolde was a play that I wrote. It was a chance to work with actors and start over in a way. Back in those early Cook County Theater Department rehearsals, one thing was agreed on, that the moment on stage, in order to be vital, has to be available to possibility. I felt that I was in kind of a rut, becoming entrenched in a process that was in danger of becoming rote, which is the real enemy of live performance. After 15 years or so of extolling the virtues of not pretending, I found myself challenging these actors I knew really well by asking, are we afraid of pretending? Or have we eliminated that possibility? So we performed another turn in that conversation regarding behavior. And I could not have done that without this group of performers who I had such a history with. This was also a chance to write a play about building a house. And the image for me is a resonant one, an imaginary perfect house created in the shared space that is the theater. Isolde it borrows from the myth Tristan and Isolde, and you'll see this acted out for you in this clip I'm about to show you with Tori Vasquez Brian Mendes, Jim Fletcher, and Gary Wilms.
I was going to tell you something that will help.
What is it?
It doesn't matter now. I was going to tell you something that will help.
No, don't say that. What is it?
It doesn't matter now. It's gone.
Tell him. Don't say that. I'll take a break, but I'm really looking forward to this project. Tell him. I want to see this through. I'll take you. He can't stop me from loving you. This project. And this is my one chance to, because I really feel it for you. He can't stop me. I'm grateful for the opportunity. You should tell him that. And this is my one chance to, because I really feel it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. You should tell him that.
Story, Isolde is an actress who's losing her memory.
We know the story. I was to come by boat and save him. We know the story. On boat, we know there was a saboteur. And save him. She put up the black flag, and when I saw... On boat, we know there was a saboteur. She put up the black flag, and when I saw... I was to come by boat and save him. I was to come by boat and when I saw and save him. And when I saw it's gone. It's gone. But that's okay. But that's okay. I'm not here. Yeah. I'm not here. Yeah. Hurtling. Moving. The velocity. High enough to eliminate evidence. The velocity of all motion. To eliminate evidence of all motion. I don't exist. I don't exist. I don't exist. Erase. I don't exist. Erase. I don't exist. I don't exist.
With this play, I began to think about character in depth and how this concept can be undone. So you have an actress who's losing her memory, unable to continue with the play ostensibly. What happens to that character? I continued that with the next show that I worked on. By the way, with all those people you just saw, I owe a huge debt. I rely on those people way beyond what they do on stage. I'm very grateful for them. The last clip I'm going to show you is from a play called The Evening, which I started working on in 2014. And I had this image of a recuperating martial artist and his relationship with a young girl. I was using Dante's Inferno as a reference point. And during the rehearsals of this play, my father died. And we were set to premiere at the Walker Arts Center in Minneapolis. And I felt faced with a choice to either cancel the show or work my father's death into the play. So I continued with the play, writing out certain disruptions and failed attempts, and I found a workaround of the character archetypes I'd written if they were treated as ghosts. So I do feel a connection between Isolde and The Evening in this sense. The characters are like ghosts in a way. They can't be killed, for example, like people can. And this line of thinking was followed to the following event I'm going to show you on stage, involving a prostitute / bartender, this aging martial arts fighter, and his corrupt manager. And in this clip, you'll see Jim and Brian and Camissa Boyer-House, who is an alum.
I could see that, for you, ever-changing camps. That would be a feat. I could see that. For you, ever-changing camps. That would be a feat.
What are you?
Huh?
What are you? Tell me what you are. I told you what I am, so what are you? What are you? Tell me what you are. I told you what I am, so what are you?
People are pleasure to me. I also like to get high. People are pleasure to me. I exist, but I have given up. I also like to get high. I'm the reminder that you resign. That's all that you do, ultimately. But I cannot win, and that is okay. I'm the reminder that you resign. Maybe you lose, but there is pleasure. Ultimately. You cannot win, and that is okay.
And what are you?
Maybe you lose, but there is pleasure.
I'm a fighter.
And what are you?
I fight. I look out at the world, I recover to heal in time for the next battle. I fight. I will win. I look out at the world, keep on recover to heal in time for the next battle. I
We
will
don't do
win.
bad things, only do understandable
on.
things. Fuck who we want, ingest what we want, do what we want. We don't do bad things. We only do understandable things. Whatever. Fuck who we want.
Are you for real?
We want, do what I don't know. We. Let's see. Whatever. Is this real?
Are you for real?
I don't know. Let's see. Feel that, motherfucker.
Okay, enough gunplay. Enough already.
Feel that, motherfucker.
Okay, enough gunplay. Enough already.
Don't shoot me. Are you crazy? What's going on? Talk to me here. Don't shoot me. Are you crazy? What's going on? Talk to me here. What did I do? Wait. What did I do? Geez, I don't know what to say. Seems like things are crumbling all around us. Geez, I don't know what to say. The police are going. Seems like things are crumbling all around
They're
us.
not.
I'm gonna die.
No, you're not.
The police are going. Then take me to the hospital.
No, they're not.
I'm gonna die.
No, you're not.
Then take me to the
What
hospital.
do you think? No. What do you think?
You should try. You should try. You shot me. Why'd you do that? You shot me. Why'd you do that? What's going on? Where are we? What's going on?
We're not here.
At least we have each other.
Where are we?
What are you talking about? We're not here. We don't have each other.
At least we have each other.
I'm out. What are you talking
You're
about?
not out.
We don't
You're
have
here.
each other.
You got nothing left if you leave. You're not out. You're here. You got nothing left if you leave. What are you doing? Why are you over there?
I'm trying to get as far away from you as possible.
What are you doing? Why are you over there?
Don't know. Just trying to get as far away from you as possible. This isn't enough.
Yeah, that's that pretty much brings us up to the present. Do you have any questions?
Being saw certain moments when it seemed like the actors were being silent because they didn't want to say anything that would be, or the characters were being silent because they didn't want to say anything that would be pretending. And then they got to a place where they weren't questioning if it was pretending or not. And then they realized maybe it was, and they stopped talking. But I'm wondering if like you see some kind of way to like reconfigure that contract between the actors and the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can find silence used effectively in theater all around. I'm not sure I understand what you're asking exactly. I would say that, you know, silence is not, it's not something that was that? Okay. I'm small. Is there a question there? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking me.
I guess often people like really want to have, or the audience often really enjoys some kind of like overlap between one line to the next, and they want some kind of like quick guidance between those two. And to me, it seemed like maybe the first instinct, if you want to like kind of shake things up or make the audience more, make things more ambiguous, would you start out, how could you make a different contract where the audience is not being guided, I guess, or they, or is the timing of silence in the beginning or silence happening at the end? How does that work? When is the best time to?
Yeah. Well, there's silence on the page, which I write into the script. I'll often put in pause, and if I want a lot of time, I'll put silence. And then there's also ellipses. I mean, you're marking the script all the time. You put a period, you put a comma, colon, dash. That's all on the page, and that's all ways of charting out a kind of landscape that involves pauses or silences. And then you have the actor who has the latitude to decide how long those pauses are. And, you know, I'm not part of that conversation because I'm the director, but it's also, it's something that is, and I think that, as I said earlier, the contract does get loosened up between the viewer and the performer when there is a lack of speech. Yeah. Yes. This feels a little silly to me.
I feel you. Do you still?
I'll get even closer to you. Yeah.
Please, yeah.
What's up, Aaron?
Hey.
How you doing?
Do you still not let decisions be made in the room and not come in with sort of the game plan for production?
You mean like as far as like decision by consensus? Is that what you mean?
I think you mentioned in the beginning of the talk that
Well, that was more like the Cook County Theater Department. The Chicago mode was more like decision by consensus, and I found that very inefficient as a working method, and I guess I was impatient.
And now, do you, before the production begins, come up with all those decisions, or
can I what?
Within the production, like in the middle of rehearsal, will you change your mind about decisions? Or before production begins, do you? Yeah, and you know, it's like, it's changing all the time. The writing is changing in rehearsals, and I'm writing around the people that are in the show, and as I learn more about them, I'm changing the writing and tailoring it to them. And then once production starts, you know, there's audience to figure in, and like, you want to make sure that you know, the story is clear. So that changes. You know, you have to constantly finagle it and coax it and find out what it needs. And
and you know, I think a big challenge for the actors that I work with is that, yeah, there's things that where you need to be, or things you need to say, but it doesn't mean that you can kind of shut off, you turn off your brain and just oblige the story. I think you have to be an active participant and be there for your own reasons that have nothing to do with me.
Thanks.
I have one quick question. Maybe you can follow up, add a little bit more to what you said about are we afraid of pretending, and think about that in relation to, you know, the theater's real sense of having moved away from representation in many instances, you know, in the downtown theater.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I look at theater as having one foot in the story and one foot in the room. I don't know, though, that I can go along with the premise that theater is moving away from representation. I think I see it more and more prevalent, and I just know for my work and working in the conversations that I'm having with the actors, you want to have options. You want to have everything that's in the ether available to you when you strike out onto the stage and engage with performers and audience. I found that I had kind of painted myself into a corner with the conversation that I was having with the actors, and you know, it's when I look at these videos, it's when I really see, oh, it becomes clearer to me when I'm looking at the past and seeing what those conversations yielded. I think that where I realized you can have you can think you're onto something, but actually it's a kind of style in itself to have this edict of not pretending, and that worries me. That's something that would get attached to the shows, and so I feel like I want to keep that in check and keep this exploration, this exploration open to possibility.
Well, I kind of have two questions, but actually, first you talked about resemblance at the beginning. Could
Yes.
you just talk some more about that? I'm interested, and I just want to get more of a sense of what you were talking about, what you are talking about there.
Yeah, sure, you know, a lot of first of all, I don't have a background I don't have training as a writer. My training was as an actor, and I don't have training as a director. And so in those early days when I was asking people, when I said I was a director, they believed me, and I couldn't believe it. They said, you know, but I found that I had more agency calling myself a director than an actor. It's like, hey, I have an idea for a show. Oh, you're an actor? You know, I'm not so interested. But if I said I was a director, then they paid attention. Like, oh, okay, so I'll call myself a director, and I'll write these plays, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but we're gonna do it anyway. And so we put these things together, and you see like how a plot kind of comes together, or a story, and it's just like it barely holds together. That's the resemblance. It resembles a play. And I found that artistically, I liked the resemblance. I fell in love with the resemblance of the play more than what the play could be or what it's aspiring to be.
Got it. So you
Okay.
resemble a director in a sense.
Yeah, I
and,
do.
and they
I feel like-
resemble actors.
Yeah.
And the whole bit.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question is a question I often ask in these artwork talks, which is sort of a why question. Like, so why? why, like, what is theater good for? Or what are you hoping this theater is useful for, functions for us? Do you know?
You know, it's I think it's a great question because I put it to the actors that I work with. I put it to them, like, why are you here? And I don't mind the question. But it feels, I feel like its root is in sharing. Why share? I mean, basically that's what you're saying. Why share? You know, and I somehow I feel like that's important. I also feel like I'm putting shows up that I want to see. I'm interested in this kind of theater, and at the very least, I get to see it. I also get to work on it. That's nice. But yeah, I get excited when I go sit down and watch a play that isn't trying to tell me what to think or trying to get everybody to feel the same thing at the same time. That excites me. And so I try to do that. And I think this goes back to your question about representation, and I still feel like that's really the motive behind representation, this realism, is to get people to identify and feel things at the same time together. And I still feel like that's what most theater tries to do. I don't, you know, maybe it doesn't need to exist. It probably doesn't need to exist, but it does. And I'm interested in it. Yeah.
I can just talk bluntly. How much do you think about how your performers move, be it in fight choreography or just move on stage? And is that part of sort of a meaning generating thing, or how do you like make those decisions? Can you conclusions with that?
The fight choreography specifically, or blocking?
Also blocking.
Yeah. You know, I think it goes back to the verb for me. Like, what is the verb? What is it? You know, what are you asking yourself, or what are we asking ourselves, or what am I asking the performer to do? It's a great question to examine the verb. Like, you know, you're gonna embrace. Like let's say that's the stage direction or whatever. That's like, we're gonna embrace. Okay, well, what is required? What's the bare minimum requirement for embracing? You know, what is that? And I think that's an important question to ask, because I think take so much for granted as performers, and we're not able to appreciate how we communicate without trying, without intending anything. We're already communicating things. And so I find that the verb, if it gets dressed, if there's dressing on the verb, on top of the verb, if you're spending time interpreting what it means, you're forgetting the essence of the verb in a lot of cases. And so that carries through to blocking, to fight choreography, to, you know, what as a performer are you committing to? It's funny how cold it is in here, right? Yeah, any other questions?
You mentioned way back in the beginning you wanted to say no on stage as opposed to saying yes in improv. Yeah. Could you expand on that? I'm very interested in that concept.
Yeah, sure. Well, picture 4 actors fresh out of college in Chicago getting together to work on like a thing, plays. Like what play are we going to do? What are we going to do? What's important on stage? What's at stake? And we had all these rules from our acting programs that we were really anxious to try out and test, in front of ourselves, in front of, audiences. And one of those rules was, you don't say no. We all had been taught that. And I don't know, we're tired of saying yes all the time, I think. It's like, no, we're not gonna fucking do that. I don't wanna do, I don't know why, I don't like your idea. I don't like your idea, I think it's really stupid. And yet, here we are on stage together, and time is still passing. It's like, I'm still hating your idea. And you're dealing with that. You probably hate my idea and me now, but we're still dealing with it, and time is passing, right? We're still up in front of an audience, and here we are. And so it's interesting because then, like, another rule that we learned, which is conflict is important, that you need conflict to make something interesting, right? That kind of creates a certain kind of conflict too. It's like you're providing resistance. It also can, especially when you frame it around this exploration of nothingness, I found you can change the conflict between what would normally be between characters or actors to performers and audience. It's like, we're not gonna do anything up here. And you guys have to deal with that. So this goes back to the silence question, that's not gonna, I'm gonna be here, I'm here. And you start to realize, well, you think you're doing nothing, but you're actually standing. You stand, that's a thing. Standing is a verb, you're standing. You're looking, that's another verb. You're breathing. You see this kind of sphere, a new sphere open up that you didn't really appreciate before, or that you were taking for granted. I think that's interesting.
I have a question. When you mentioned using non-human performers, or you were tired of working with humans as performers, what question?
I was tired of it.
Is that what
No, I wasn't tired. I'm not tired. I just find that the human being is the human on stage. After looking at humans for so many years on stage, I think that they're loaded as figures, loaded figures, especially when we step up in front of people. And you all have opinions about me, good or bad, whatever. And that, when you put that into the context of a play or story, you have a character, it seems to grow exponentially, as I see it. So what's gonna, how are we gonna get through this? How are we gonna get through this this kind of experience without offending? Well, yeah. It's just like, I think that the human can be offensive as in its natural state. And when it comes to a notion like neutrality, it becomes very difficult to put something across that doesn't say something, doesn't communicate something, especially if you've got the human being there. And so I thought, well, this would be funny. I'm gonna commission a robot to be made to see what happens, see if that changes the contract or the relationship between the audience and the figure. And it's also, there's a kind of joke in there because a lot of things that get said about my work is that the performers are robotic. So I thought, well, you want to see robotic? Here's a robot. Yeah. They want to go, they're cold.
question. Nathan's got a question.
Yeah, real quick, just to go off of working with actors. So you've said you recently sort of wanted to change your approach. You felt track what you were doing before. How do you continue that conversation? Because you still use a lot of the same actors. Yeah. How do you continue that conversation? What changes? With just the relationship between you and those same, like Brian would say. Like, what changes?
In rehearsal, or how I talk to them, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, like, for example, I couldn't have made Isolde, where I wanted to challenge this notion of not pretending without any other crew, because I had this history of encouraging them to be free of the burden of pretending, and that had been carried on for so long that it had become rote, I felt. So I wanted to upset this idea, and in a way come in the back door to find a kind of realism, I guess. And you can't fake that. You can't have that conversation with someone that you just met, or you just started to work with. And so I think that what also changes is that there's a shorthand where I'm not saying virtual, I'm really not saying anything. There's apart from certain special situations, I don't have to have this conversation that I typically have with new actors, where we talk about a lot of the stuff that I'm saying here. For example, that time is spent on something else. And you can go further with people that you've worked with longer. Thanks, guys. Thank you.